Hello and welcome to Voices of Parenting podcast. I am so glad you're here. My name is Mussi Diskin. I am an advanced nurtured heart approach trainer. I am a parenting coach. I am also an inner wealth coach, which means that I help people rediscover and connect to the people that they truly were all along, but may have gotten forgotten along the way. So to find out more about me and what I offer, you can check out mussidiskin.com, contact me through there, respond to this podcast, find me on social media. I would love to connect and I would love to hear your feedback. To sponsor a Voices of Parenting podcast episode, please reach out to energizinghearts@gmail.com. Thank you for being here, and I hope you enjoyed today's episode. Okay, tonight we have a very special treat. We have a mother and a daughter together here to share their story. Devorah Leah and Menucha, thank you so much for being here. I'm so excited you guys are here, and I can't wait to hear your story. So if you guys could just introduce yourselves. I know everyone's going to want to know how old you are, Menucha, and tell us why you're here and what brought you here.
Hi, I'm 17. Why I'm here, honestly, I was asked if I wanted to do it, and I was like, sure.
It's brave and confident of you, and I'm excited to hear what life is like from a teenage perspective, because we're always talking to parents and professionals and educators and grandparents. We don't always hear it from the kids, so it's exciting to hear from, and people always ask all the time, like, what about teenagers and how does this apply to teenagers? And so we're going to hear it from the teenager's mouth, actually. And according to your mother, you have a ton of wisdom, and you're very, 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 very wise and very, very intuitive. So I'm sure you have a lot to share. So I'm excited to pick your brain about that. And so if I could ask you, and maybe we'll start with you, Mom, with Devorah Leah,
Sure.
if you could go back to maybe like, I don't know, when things felt a little more challenging, what was it, what made you feel like, you said you took my course twice, what made you feel like you needed to take a course? Like, what was going on back then for you?
Okay. So I would say, I'll start with a story of Menucha when she was 3 years old. We took Menucha to a family simcha. It was a l'chaim, so just imagine a 3-year-old late at night with lots of stimulation going on, and she was having a meltdown. And I remember this very prestigious lady in our community, very well known, very highly respected, a sought after speaker, who's a family friend, came over to me and says, you really like as if something's wrong with you that you could allow your child to talk to you that way. Like, parents now are not controlling their kids, and the kids think they could talk however they want to their parents and could behave horribly. It happened to be I had 2 kids of 4 who did very, very well in these type of settings, and I was getting all these compliments. What an incredible mom I was! My kids behave so well at these events, and they're just obviously different kids. Some kids get overwhelmed by all the stimulation, change of schedule, not knowing what's going on, all these new people. So for me, it was kind of a little funny, because here I was getting for so many years all this credit, and now I'm the mom who doesn't know what I'm doing. So I kind of threw it on her, and I'm like, this is just who she is. Like, and she's like, let me handle her. And she went and gave that really authoritative, scary look to Menucha, and Menucha didn't care. And she gave her back the same look and showed her, like, you can't control me either. So it was kind of that exasperation, like, what do you do? And what is the most effective way of parenting? And what I found that Nurturing Heart helped me a lot, and also other people who spoke on parenting, is this idea of making the shift that we're not in control of our kids. We don't own their behavior, but rather to get curious about our kids and to know that we are their primary influencer. And that way, so as an influencer, you focus more on role modeling, you focus more on building relationships, and also celebrating the person. And that's what I loved about Nurturing Heart, is where it shifted from control to kind of building relationships. And the other thing what I loved about Nurturing Heart for me is when you have little kids, you think you're in control, and Nurturing Hearts to tell you that you're not in control, and instead to energize the positivity and really almost like being grateful for your beautiful souls that you have and taking that moment to enjoy it. But with teenagers, you know that like you're not in control. It's so obvious. And the other thing is, as a teenager, you become a whole person, so you really get to really celebrate them. So I find Nurturing Heart is actually easier for me to apply with teenagers.
I have so many questions I want to ask right now. I'm so inspired by the kind of like ease that you just described, that transition of going from a place where parenting is about controlling kids and making sure that they're behaving in a way that they're supposed to this kind of like full acceptance of I'm an influencer and I'm here for a relationship and I'm here to celebrate who my children are, and I'm not here to control their behavior, and to be so open to that and ready for that and just happy and yeah, it's so beautiful. I'm curious if that was easy for you, if that was natural for you. Like, how did you go from one
It's
to the other?
it's extremely unnatural for me because my go-to is control. And but what helped me a lot is I heard from this other therapist who said that improvement is not going from, let's say, control to influencer. Is improvement is if you do it less often with less intensity and a shorter duration. So that helped me a lot. Like I don't have to like be this perfect person who always knows that God is in control, I'm not in control, and because you know what, I'm wired to always think that I'm in control. It's like a constant battle. So that really helped me to like be more easy on myself. And then once the relationship flows and there's a sense of peace and harmony, I think like you, when I look back over time, I do see, I don't know what you feel like, I do see improvement, you know, in myself.
The surrender, and also the graciousness of knowing that it's not all or nothing. It's not an overnight change. It's a process, and every little baby step in the right direction is a baby step in the right direction. It's something we can celebrate about ourselves. Okay, so Menucha, it's your turn. So I am curious about what, if you feel like that was your experience, if you remember there being more of a dominating or controlling kind of feeling in the relationship or in the house, and if that feels like it changed for you, or what that experience was like for you.
May have changed. Honestly, like I didn't really like hyper focus on it, but like obviously you grow and I've gotten older too, so that changes things. So I guess but never, I don't really, okay, I'm gonna take a moment here. My mom loves parenting classes. And my opinion on parenting classes is the ones who take it are the ones who need it least. Because anyone who wants to change and wants to do better, you're good. You're already good. You're already doing what you have to do. Your kids will be fine. The parents who are the ones that aren't going to be listening and aren't going to be taking these classes or caring to change are the ones that are going to have the parenting problems. So my mom has always been a good mom. And so yeah, things have changed, but I don't think it has made this like astronomical change.
That is so sweet. Can we take a minute to just take that in? That's so sweet that you say that about your mom. And obviously that is huge proof about you, Devorah Leah, that your daughter could say that about you so like easily and honestly.
She's very forgiving. Every time I
Yeah.
beat myself up, she's like, "Stop it, mom." Like, we're
Yeah.
fine.
And I can see that
Kids are
exactly
very
that very
resilient.
thing, Menucha, what you're saying is like, someone who's working on themselves, who's trying to be better. That's all that's really needed. I guess what I want to hear from you is like from a perspective of that, of being the kid, like there's obviously things that hurt. Like even if someone's working on themselves in the moment, things that aren't pleasant. How do you walk through getting to that place where you can just appreciate the growth, or what is it about? Yeah, how do you have this mindset, or how do you help yourself with this mindset?
I don't really know. It's kind of something like I'm trying to remember like with like my parents like exactly like when like I've had hard times because recently like have we gotten into any arguments in the recent
Not recent,
months?
but I'm sure we did when we were kids. Yeah.
Yeah, when I was a kid maybe, but that was like a really long time ago. You know,
You guys are
she's
like
like
the
my best
perfect
friend.
family.
No, she's just my best friend. I might be the problem.
Well, let's talk about that for a
Menucha is a
minute.
lot of fun.
Let's talk about that for a minute, because if it's okay for me to say, and you can there that obviously you guys are living religiously a little bit of a different lifestyle.
Yes.
And you're so obviously happy at home and so comfortable to say that your mother's your best friend and that you haven't gotten into fights recently and you can't even remember the last time. So, Manufa, what is the secret? Like, how is it that you're so comfortable? What is it? Tattle on your mom. Like, what is it that makes you feel so okay to be yourself? Obviously, because you're very obviously okay to be yourself and confident and just, here I am for it all, whatever it is. Yes, I say yes. um, and have such a good relationship at home. Like, what is that secret sauce?
Well, I think one of the biggest things like I was raised with was to have our own opinions and to establish those. They were like we were never taught to like get like, oh, this is what we're gonna do, this is what we're gonna be, how we're gonna follow things. So I think in general, like having my own opinions is no shock to me. And like at the beginning when like I first started like dressing a little different and doing things a little different, like yeah, it was hard. And like I wasn't as comfortable. I'm very comfortable with myself wherever I am. But like they weren't as comfortable with me being myself. But now at this point, like I just want like they're very accepting on me, and I live my life.
What would you tell like parents who had a daughter who was maybe choosing a different lifestyle? What would you tell them, or what would you advise them to keep the relationship like in such a healthy place?
I think take a moment to look back and think about if the way they're changing, if it's something that's going to legitimately harm them, then maybe you should step in. But if they're just dressing different or going against your like religious beliefs or things like that, like just let your kid live. Like just like I know a lot of like parents have the rule of like, oh, like I'll let my kid dress like not modestly, but like I won't pay for their clothing. And like I think like I never had that with like I thought at the beginning that's how it was gonna be, but my parents never treated me like that way. If I'm like, oh, I want this tank top, they're like, okay, if I like it's cute, you need it, let's get it. Um, it was never like that, so I think that's a big thing. And I think like your kids are gonna have to choose their own paths in life, and at the end they like that's gonna be best for them. And so let them figure themselves out instead of you trying to like make them figure out who they are without letting them figure that out for themselves.
What do you think would have like happened to you, or how would it have been if they would have pushed back, if they would have like controlled you more, or said, we're not going to pay for your clothes, or I mean, that's like a very specific example, but in general, in your life, if it was more like you have to be this way, you have to do this thing, and they push back against your choices?
I've never thought of it that way. I don't even know if I would know, but I'm like my favorite line is that strict parents make sneaky kids, and it's like my parents are like the furthest thing from strict. Like I will do whatever I want, but in the day like I don't do anything because like there's no reason to. Like you're gonna like if I don't if I don't have to sneak out, why am I leaving my house? Like it's comfortable. Like what's the excitement to it? There's no like it takes away that like thrill and the excitement if there's no like I'm allowed to like I'll like be out late. Like I'm not doing anything. Like I'm sitting in like a random store. Like I'll sit in Rite Aid with like my best friend like talking. But like that's about it. Like that's what I'm doing out late. Like I don't do anything. But I think when they were a little more strict was when I was like quote unquote being like I don't know, like I wasn't ever like bad, but like doing more problematic things was when and like sneaking out and doing things like that was more when like they would have been strict, not like now I'm boring. Like I I don't do much because like there's no thrill of it. So there's no reason to do it.
Yeah. No, I hear you, but it's ironic because it's counterintuitive because parents, I think that if I put my foot down and I'm really clear and I make those rules and I, you know, nip it in the bud, and like you heard Devorah Leah at L'chaim, so many years ago, like if you show her who's boss, then they'll stop, or then they'll stay in line, like I'll keep them in line. And what I hear you saying, Menucha, is that would actually push you way further out of line because there's a certain space of like the thrill. Maybe I heard you use the word thrill of, like, I'm saying the opposite of what you said, which would be the thrill of breaking the rules, would be like the I don't know if it's only thrill. I think maybe also there's this sense of autonomy that is like every human's right, and it's almost like a fight for that right of like, no, you're not going to control me, actually, and actually I'll find ways. And the stricter you are, the more sneaky I'll have to be. Like you said, that was a brilliant line. The more sneaky I'll have to be, but I will have my own life and I will make it happen. And that the fact that you have not been told you need to stay any sort of way, you are you, and we celebrate you, and we're happy you're here, almost opens the door for you not to need to assert your autonomy because nobody's taking it away from you.
Yeah. So like, I'm not so religious, but besides that, like I don't do much because there's no reason to.
Also, Menucha shares our values very, very strongly. So, if I could share, for example, lighting Shabbos candles is like our special thing that we both do. Like,
Like
it's
a little
not
respectfulness.
like
Do you guys fight about that?
I don't think so, but it's not like we're very passionate about Israel right now. Sometimes we sit there so much thinking about what our child is not. You don't sit there to notice how much of the same values you have. We have like so much more in common than maybe what is, different about us.
That's so beautiful. That's so beautiful, Devorah, that you're able to do that. I'm curious, really, if you could speak maybe more about like how you were able to really um, embrace that. Like, was there resistance? Was there a time where you were thinking more about what isn't than what is?
I think what really got in my way was fear and other people telling me, if you don't do something, who knows what will be. And that ended up being very toxic. Once I let go of like, like I don't have to fix my kids, then you really enjoy. So I think it's the fear that gets in the way, but otherwise we have so much in common. I mean, there's just so much there. And another
I can see where Menucha comes from because there's a feisty spirit in you, Menucha, a feisty, stubborn, strong spirit that I see also in you, Devorah Leah, of like, no, I'm gonna stand up to that fear. I'm not gonna let that fear control me. I'm not gonna let other people control me. These are my kids. I get to enjoy them. I get to live life with them. I get to see them for the beautiful people they are. Like, too bad on everyone else. These are my kids. I want to love them. Is that a problem? Like, I don't need to fix them. They're beautiful. Like, I see that like strength in you, and it's such a beautiful power. It's such a freeing stance to have, and I wish for that for all parents, that they should have that strength to know what's rightfully theirs, that they don't have to conform to anybody or anything and miss out on what's really the most beautiful thing in the world, their own family. It's so beautiful.
Also, I have to say that I was number 9. So the time I came around, my parents took that approach. And later on, my friends told me, like, oh, I was so jealous. You were able to be free spirited and more rebellious, and we lived in so much fear. And I didn't realize what a gift my parents gave me, that they let me be. I was maybe like, well, rebellious was when you went to movies. I don't know how, but just this. And I was still scared of them finding out, but they still gave me that space and pretended they didn't know. And if I came home late, nobody drilled me. And in the end, I owned my own Judaism and my own decisions. And I was very grateful that I did get that and still was, respected. So I definitely something that was given over strongly by my parents. I'm very grateful for.
That's so beautiful. Hmm. Well, we have a few minutes left. Where do we want to go?
know. But I also want to say about um letting your kid figure out who they are when they're younger, because you don't want your kid to wake up when they're old or when they're 20 something and they're already either started their life or wherever they're at and be like, oh, now I want to figure out where they are. Because when a 20-year-old or a 30-year-old is acting like a teenager, it's extremely unhealthy and could be very dangerous. When a teenager is acting like a teenager, the consequences are so much less. Like, I have no responsibilities now. I don't have kids. I don't have a legitimate job. So me being out late or having fun or doing stupid things, the consequences are so much smaller than if I would, let's say, go through the whole system perfectly out of fear and then wake up at 25 and be like, oh God, I don't know who I am, and then end up in places that are so much more dangerous.
Point. So, so true. It's an investment. An investment is super super scary, but it's an investment into a solid future if we can let go now. Because, like you're saying, the sooner we let go, as parents, the sooner our kids can take the ropes of their own lives and become who they need to be, so that they don't have to later. I think that's huge, and that's so brilliant. And I feel like, Manucha, I don't know like how you know what you know, or like where where this who you've analyzed, or what books you've read, or what kind of soul you have from what kind of planet. But um, I know that so many adults are going through exactly what you're describing, Manucha, right now. So many adults in the world right now are talking about reclaiming their childhoods or finding themselves, figuring out who they are, healing, recovering as adults, like you're saying, with families, with kids, with jobs, with lives, and and they feel like everything's falling apart, and they have to kind of put the pieces together while also balancing real life. And the fact that you have the wisdom, the ability, the freedom, thanks to your incredible parents, but also your own stubbornness, your own kind of I say stubbornness in the best of ways, by the way. Like, it's a stubborn, like,
I'm stubborn. I'll take that.
okay,
I'm
good.
stubborn.
It's a stubborn knowing. It's a stubbornness for like knowing the truth, like unashamedly like standing in that truth of like, I know, and I'm not gonna let I don't need to hear the voices outside, because I know the voice inside. I hear it. I know it's true, and I'm gonna own that so fully, that you can do that now, that you could know already now who you are, and I'm sure, there's always evolving and growing and learning more about who we are, but to be such a confident, um, like wise, well-spoken, independent individual at 17, to have such a
Yeah.
beautiful relationship with your family, and have such, be living a different lifestyle, but staying so close, and having all of these, like the forgiveness you're discussing, and the love for your parents, and the forgiveness for your parents, and the respect for your parents. And it's such a healthy, beautiful balance. And it's just, I mean, if anybody's listening, whoever's listening to this, I mean, what she just said, like, she's the proof of it, because look what a beautiful balance has been created from this ability to just be yourself and figure yourself out. It's beautiful.
Yeah. I also get very bored, so I learned how to hyperanalyze things, and I watch a lot of TV, so I just hyperanalyzed all the characters and decided, like, for me, my biggest fear is that, like, I will grow up and be a mom and then make my child into the adult, because I think that is the most damaging thing anyone could do, is when the child has to be the mom because the mom was never able to be a child, so then when they become a mom, they're a child.
Hmm. Wow. You speak as if you've had like so many lives, but I hear you. You have a very analytical mind, and you've been able to figure lots of stuff out from that.
I just
Yeah.
wanted to say, like when she was younger and having, let's say, that tantrum at that L'chaim or other times, what I wish I did, advise other parents who wish I was that parent, is to see the positive in that exact thing. Let's say, for example, that tantrum was a child who's very perceptive and is picking up everything that's going on. That's a gift that she has. Right now, it's a meltdown, but it's a gift of perception that she would carry. The strength of character, which will come into power struggles with some authority figures, is going to help her in life for that inner strength or telling me one day, Mom, I'm not going to school anymore. And she's without school and I'm having a complete meltdown. Is a kid who understands self-care and understands that I'm not in a good place. I can't be here anymore. So when you're going through sometimes the hardest part in parenting, or the what seems like your kid's biggest enemy is really their best friend, and you're going to see it later on, like it would be the greatest asset. And that's where I wish I could go back and instead of panicking, think, no, this is a gift that's going to get harnessed, and having that trust and belief in your kids. They're going to learn to like harness this in the most positive, beautiful ways. And it's just going to be a positive quality.
I would like
love
to
that.
say, I still don't do well at weddings and big events.
Say that again. I didn't hear you.
I still don't do well at weddings and big events.
But you behave.
That was the
Well, now she
The
can walk
Jankel's
out if she needs to. She doesn't need mommy to take her out anymore. This was such a cool conversation. Audience, stay tuned for part 2. You guys are incredible. I am so lucky that you were willing to come on with me. I'm so, Devorah Leah, thank you so much for
Thank
reaching
you.
out and everything so that I could even know you're out there, and to get you on here for people to see. This is role modeling something so powerful. And let's just put it out there, right? Devorah Leah, you never went to CTI and became a trainer or anything like that. This is just your own effort as a parent, just, reading, learning, listening, right? Is that?
And Nurturing Heart really helped me, even though my kids complain when I was practicing on them. But if all these classes, you might not see it right away, the results, but they slowly go inside and they really, really help. So I really share with the audience to keep listening and keep listening, because you don't always see the results right away. And sometimes you even get pushback. I'm telling you, my kids were like, you can't do this.
Like telling your 12-year-old child that you're proud of them for not hitting doesn't go over well.
Okay, more on that next episode. Join us again soon. Thank you guys so much. Hey, wait, don't go yet. Take a minute to find the beautiful quality that you have, that you appreciate about yourself.